Welcome to the Been There Doing That podcast. I'm Robert Scrivener.
And I'm Gayla Scrivener.
We left the 9-to-5 grind, downsized, and our goal is to have freedom to live and to work from just about anywhere.
Welcome, Brian.
Welcome. Oh, wait. Hi.
Hey, we got the microphone switched this time. We were so honored to be on your podcast, the Gearhead Project, a few weeks ago. And we've got Brian Driggs here with the Gearhead Project. Yes, it's you. Brian, before we go too far.
Right.
Share a little something to our listeners, a bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Well, let's see. I was born to my parents at a young age. I don't know why I said that.
But you know what? I have been trying a long time, but I cannot ever get back to my original weight of 7 pounds, 11 ounces.
Right.
No matter how hard I try. It's just impossible.
Yeah. Calorie counting and moderate exercise are the key, but not that big of a key. I don't know. You strike me that I should have like an elevator pitch about myself. What can I say about myself? I am a longtime car guy, gearhead. Grew up playing with cars. I still have a silverware box somewhere here in the garage with Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars that I had in 8th grade. Somewhere in my room, I got a shoebox full of micro machines, most of which were colored and painted because I was ridiculous. But more recently, I guess I would say that you could call me a Mitsubishi fanboy. I've been playing with Mitsubishis since 1996, mostly cars. Started out with a 97 Eagle Talon that I bought new with 7 miles on it, 4 of which were my test drive. I've had Eclipse, a couple Galant VR4s, and then I switched over to Monteros sometime around 2012 or 13, I think. So you could say I've been a truck guy for 6 or 7 years now. Beyond that, back in 2009, I started a Mitsubishi Gearbox magazine. It was an online magazine for Mitsubishi owners, which very quickly evolved to become a magazine for all automotive enthusiasts. I took a very principled, dare I say it, obstinate approach to how I ran that thing, and didn't really go too far with it. But over the course of 10 years, my interest evolved from the vehicles and what people were doing to them, and more to seeing what different people were doing with their vehicles and how doing that changed them. So it's kind of some people tell me it sounds a little self-help, but self-help is DIY, and we all love that. So the Gearhead Project was born out of a desire to help automotive enthusiasts, or boating enthusiasts, or aviation enthusiasts, anybody who's interested in motorized or self-propelled transportation vehicle type pursuits, to see that if you've got something that you're interested in, the more that you focus on improving that, you are picking up skills and honing skills that you can apply to other areas of your life to achieve what I used to call work-life parallel, but I kind of evolved that to be work-life harmony, where what you do for a living feels more like living than a paycheck. So maybe that'll work.
That was a long elevator ride.
I like that, though.
But before we go anywhere, I will say on the record, I've got 330 Hot Wheels still in the package.
Would you like them? They're on sale now.
Not in the market for buying Hot Wheels, and they usually in my house end up getting opened, and a 7-year-old girl plays with them with her dinosaurs, which if you love your Hot Wheels, it's not a good
We don't love them enough to keep them because we live in an RV.
Well, I'm going to definitely introduce you to my friend Brad DeSantis of the Auto Off Topic podcast, because he is something of a collector.
There you go.
And he knows people, and he might be interested in taking a gander at your collection.
I've already taken pictures, so we might just have to send them over to him.
Yeah.
I will.
From
I
the
just
90s.
had to say that. That was 330 of them I counted last time we had them out of the box. And they're still in the original package, and they're from the Mid 90s to the early 2000s. So they're a good 20 years old. Right
He's
now.
ready to let go to make space in the storage building for I don't know what else.
Something else.
I think it's Gearhead stuff because there's tires in there,
Yeah.
and but
You can never have too many spare tires.
No. I've got my mud tires for the Jeep, and I've got my street tires for the Jeep.
Ooh.
Yeah, some ride a little rougher than others, and others get better mileage than the others. But it's always nice to have 2 sets of wheels and tires.
Oh, sure.
Brian, I don't think that you and I met in person, but I know you and Robert met at Overland Expo. How did that come about? How did we get connected?
Well, I wrote a little piece for the Gearhead Project back in the day. This Overland Expo was my second expo, and this was West. I went to the year on Mormon Lake where it was really, really windy.
Hey, we were there.
That was called Bloverland.
That's right. And I referred to this last one at the Yavapai, whatever, the county fairgrounds up there, Flagstaff.
Mhm.
I heard this as Overwhelming Land Expo because I have never seen so many people. It was like a Black Friday camping sale outdoors. Like I stood in line. I think after I stood in line an hour for a food truck to get some Korean barbecue, which was delicious. It's my favorite food truck in the valley. Everybody else I was hanging out with had already had lunch and gone off to do other things. So I was kind of by myself, and it was overwhelming. There's so many people standing around, and I just walked over to the bleachers overlooking the driving area to see if I could catch up with our mutual friends Tim and Kelsey from Dirt Sunrise, and I didn't. And there was this tall drink of water standing there by the fence by himself with a feather in his cap, and just struck up a conversation. And he had a business card, and I was like, wow, this guy's got a ham license. He's got the fancy ham ticket. And started following y'all on Instagram and found the podcast, and here we are.
That's fun. I think that was on the day that I had shower duty.
Yeah, you were on the other end of
I was volunteering.
mile and a half away.
I was volunteering and helping fill those helio tanks for shower duty. The one and only shower of the vast millions of people at the Overland Expo. Needless to say, the percentage of people that actually took the shower wasn't really there.
Right. Well, there were some people that were taking showers in their, their $500,000 Blissmobiles. And,
well, there is that.
Yeah, which I guess if I had a $500,000, Overland rig, I would be using the heck out of it too.
Exactly.
Well, what is your Overland rig? Do you have one? I mean,
what would you do if you had one? And do you have one?
Well, so kind of jumping around a bit, I would say that I do not have an Overland rig because I subscribe to the old school of thought that says that overlanding is self-sufficient vehicle-based travel, which is more of a point A, point B, long-term thing. So in my mind, if the trip, I guess the closest I would get to say is if the trip is about multiple stops, and covering distance and plotting a route or tracking a trail or doing a specific traverse, I would consider that overlanding. But for the most part, I think a lot of folks just go camping.
That's true.
I think it's
for an extended period of time.
Yeah. So, like you guys are overlanders because you're on the move. You are self-contained, vehicle-based, and you just go wherever you need to go. And I think overlanding has more of a nomadic aspect to it, I think, than rooftop tent and camping on the weekend. It's nice. You can have all the overlanding gear, but if, like you guys are overlanding, Tim and Kelsey with Dirt Sunrise driving through South America, that's overlanding. The folks at, Clay Croft and the team at Expedition Overland, driving into South America and Alaska, that's overlanding. Even the Mongol Rally from the Adventurous, driving across Eastern Europe into Russia, that's overlanding. But, driving up to the deer stand on the weekend and drink some beer and sleep in your rooftop tent, that's camping.
Yeah.
So I don't have an overlanding rig. I have a 1998 Mitsubishi Montero, and my mods consist of 31-inch BF Goodrich tires and a couple of skid plate upgrades that I got from Adventure Driven Design, which I have yet to install. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been camping twice this year. The whole year, it's October 22nd. I've been camping twice. That was 2 consecutive weekends in a row. And one of those weekends, I slept in a bed in a 22-foot trailer, like an RV trailer.
It counts. It counts.
It counts. So, yeah, if I had my druthers and I was going to do overlanding, well, I think some people in the audience might have already guessed this. I've been a Mitsubishi fanboy since '96. I would be Earth Cruiser all the way every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really disappointed when I went to Overland Expo West that one year. I was planning on, and I had an invite to go hang out with the Earth Cruiser crew on Sunday morning. But I got caught up in the Saturday night media vendor sponsor party shenanigans.
Been there.
I haven't been that drunk in a long time. My Sunday morning started with throwing up over a barbed wire fence out at the edge of the big bulk camping place out on the edge of the lake. And I just had to roll out and tuck my tail and run. But yeah, I love the Earth Cruisers. I'm a Mitsubishi guy. I think they're really neat. And that'd be the way I would go.
You're talking all the Mitsubishis, and I know that Robert visualizes each and every make and model. But
Well, I used to work at Mitsubishi, but I didn't work on Mitsubishis. I was on the Porsche side.
But-
The Porsche side?
The Porsche.
yeah, he
The
worked
Porsche
on
side of Mitsubishi?
Well, the
at the
dealership I worked for also had Porsches and the Mitsubishis and
BMW.
no, that was a
Oh.
different. I worked at two different dealerships as automotive tech back in the 90s.
Wow.
And went to school for BMW tech and Porsche tech. So working on, those European sports cars.
Right.
So I was around the Mitsubishi Eclipse and, the Eagle Talons and everything else and the Montero. So I'm visualizing all this stuff.
Does
in
it
my head.
count if you had a Mitsubishi Mirage?
It does.
It does.
Oh, good. I feel
Yeah.
good.
She owned one.
I owned a Mitsubishi Mirage, which looked exactly like one of those Dodge Colts.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, depending on the year, like 95, 96, Mitsubishi Mirage was the chassis that the Lancer Evolution 5 and or 6 was based on.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have too many dyed-in-the-wool Mitsubishi fans in the audience just screamed into there.
What the?
well, I don't know, Brian. You're talking cursive to me, so it's okay. Well, in your camping trips, and I mean, you like the outdoors, and you go things.
Oh, yeah.
Where's your favorite place that you've gone to so far?
My favorite place that I've gone to, honestly, is a little neighborhood on the southeast side of Kauai, Hawaii, little town called Anahola. And it was a neighborhood that we stayed in. Obviously, we didn't drive to Hawaii. Someday I would like to sail there. I've heard it takes about 3 weeks to go by sailboat from Long Beach to Hawaii.
Wow, that's so brave.
Yeah, at about 5 miles an hour. It takes a bit of a time. It's a bit of a row. Not even a row. I guess you're sailing. Anyway, but yeah, we flew out there and we stayed in an Airbnb, and it was literally right across the street from the beach. And
Nice.
the road that it was on, I guess there was a hurricane or tsunami or something that came in the late 90s and hit the east shore of Kauai and wiped out an entire chunk of the island. It took out this road. And so this was the road that went along the coastline. And because it didn't go through anymore, there wasn't really any traffic on it. And so this beach that we were on was probably 200 yards long. There was a river coming out from the jungle, down from the mountain. So the river flowed out just right out the beach onto the ocean. And there was a piece of driftwood that had been out there, probably had to been out there 50 years, and on its side, half buried in the sand. It was 3 feet tall, and there were never more than 6 people on that beach, including my wife and my daughter and I. We had the whole place to ourselves. Um, it was fantastic. It was just fantastic. I will probably, short of buying a $2 million home, I will probably never get that experience again, because Hawaii gave in to the big resorts, and now you can't Airbnb out anything less than the entire property. So the lady who owned that house with 2 condos below it sold it, and I guess she moved to a different island, and it's no more.
That sounds like a great experience. Oh,
It was amazing.
yeah. That experiences like that, that's what, having those memories and then looking for other experiences like that. Do you have like a dream trip that you're working toward, or you kind of have in the back of your mind that's like, I've never been to this particular place and I'm just yearning to?
Oh, I could go on. I've got a bucket list. I would like to. I've kind of taken on, and I know that at some point this might very well mean the end of my 4-wheeled, 2-wheeled lifestyle, but I would like to go sailing. I'd like to get a blue water sailboat and just drift away. I like the idea of, it's like overlanding, but you don't really need fuel, and you can catch fish, and you can catch fresh rainwater, and you can convert salt water into rainwater, and you got solar power, and you got wind power, and you can just go where the wind takes you all around the world. I think somebody said, like, if 70% of the world is covered by water, you don't have to put the boat in a container to go across the ocean, and it's a lot cheaper, I think, to take a taxi or rent a bicycle or a scooter or something. I'd like to do that someday, but between here and there, I'd like to check out Australia. I'd like to do. There's a guy, an organization, I guess at this point now, down in Australia, and they do what's called the Shitbox Rally, and it's kind of like the lemons racing people do here in the States, or like the Gambler 500, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I am.
Where
I keep up with that stuff.
Yeah. So the Shitbox Rally, that's literally what it's called. They raise money for cancer research in Australia. What these folks do is, you pick up a crappy car, like $1,000 to $1,500 car, and you and 2 or 3 friends, you go to the start line, and they drive something like 3,000 kilometers over the course of 10 days, and they pick a new route every year. And some years they'll go north to south, some years they'll go east to west, some years they go out the outback and back. But they start one place and they drive these piece of crap cars. The organizers coordinate everything: the route, the fuel stops, the hotels, the food. Every night they have a barbecue. So you've got 150 vehicles. They're all crappy, and there's probably 400 people, and you're just driving out into the outback and stopping in these little towns where there's like 300 people. They've had a truck show up to fill up the gas station so everybody can fuel up, and they have a barbecue. Cars are breaking down. They're doing what they call bush mechanics to fix vehicles. If you can't get it to run, you just have to bum a ride. And at the end of the race, they sell all the cars off to further fund their charity. I think that would just be an absolute blast to do. Although, getting to Australia not being hard enough, buying a $1,000 car on the other side of the planet, sight unseen, registering it to do that. They have another event called the Mystery Box, where I assume they're taking the cars from the previous year's Shitbox Rally, and you have a budget, and they roll one car out from behind the curtain at a time, and you can bid on it. And by the time the last car comes out, if you're the last team, you're buying that last car, whatever. And they do it that way. You don't have to worry about finding the car. You just have to show up and buy the car from them at the start, which seems like it might be more my speed. But I'd love to do that. Just the whole idea of an automotive adventure, a road trip with friends that's not just, renting a new Malibu and driving to Vegas for the weekend to get drunk. So.
Well, think of all the camaraderie that you'd have with all the other folks, and just, when you go through an experience like that would be so much fun.
Gosh, I bet.
Oh, I'd not heard about that. I know.
Well, now you have.
I know. You don't tell me about these things.
Well, you never asked.
No, we don't talk unless we have earphones on.
Have you all heard of a website, a group called The Adventurists?
I have, yes. I keep up with that stuff more than she does.
Oh, wow. They've got some pretty crazy events going on. I just interviewed a guy on my podcast it's been about a month now, a little over a month ago, a guy named Diego. And on a whim, he found a buddy and they did the Mongol rally. So they flew out and they did it on like 10 days notice. They flew from Denver to Romania and bought like a 76 Lada Niva, the little awesome 4-wheel drive Soviet hatchback. And they got the car for free because they've got it from a guy who'd run the event the year prior and wanted them to take a side trip secret mission to pick up a homemade wooden roof rack that they had to dump out in the middle of, I don't know, outer Mongolia or something. And they drove that little Lada Niva like from Romania all the way across eastern Russia. They literally made a trip around the world. By the time they flew from Colorado to Romania, drove to the east, caught a flight back through like Taiwan, back to LA, back to Denver. I think he said he was in like 27 countries in the course of 60 days.
Wow.
Ridiculous. Sleeping in the car. He took like 4 showers, drove through war zones, spent 6 hours in a tunnel somewhere at a Russian border crossing. Like the stories he told on that podcast. I'll get you guys a link to that episode so you can check it out. Incredible. Like it's one of those things that you hear about and you go, I don't know that I want to do this based on what you're telling me you went through. But there's also a part of me that says, I really want to do that. Those guys, they got one where they do a race across Mongolia on horseback. And they're wild horses.
Yeah, I'm out.
And you just get a wild horse every day. Like they just round up wild horses and you pick one and you ride it that day. And then the next day you get a different horse.
I'm out on that one.
Adventure.
Isn't it so interesting to hear about this stuff and appreciate the adventure with it? I mean, it may not be our thing, but wow.
Bad choices make for good stories.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, who's to say?
But it sounded good at first.
Now, we've gone to chuck wagon races and
testicle festivals,
things like that.
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you right there. What?
Go ahead, Gayla. Tell him that.
Well, there's this little tiny
We've
town.
seen it on a billboard.
Yeah. A little tiny town in Missouri, Olean, Missouri. Did I say that right?
You said it right.
And it is literally maybe 4 people in the town. I don't know. It's a very small town. Well, they close off the street, once a year, and their fundraiser.
I'm still nervous about where this is going.
They close off the street, and there's a lot of motorcyclists that come in, but a lot of tourists come in for this testicle festival.
They charge $5 to get into the town.
Yeah, you got to get
nuts.
Yeah, nuts.
Yeah, that's how they make their money for the year.
For the whole Chamber of Commerce for this little tiny town. Well, I have to tell a different story here too, but they will prepare, I don't know, is it turkey testicles or?
Yeah,
it's turkey testicles. They deep fry them, and then that's what they sell all day. And then they have some music and they have some crafts, but mainly you have the testicle festival.
You like buy these fried turkey testicles and then promptly throw them in the trash where they belong?
Okay, but I tried them.
She tried them.
With ranch. If you put enough ranch dressing on them, they go down a little bit better.
Yeah, I think if you put ranch on a boot, it would go down better. Ranch. Sidebar.
So,
when are we going to get real and call ranch dressing American dressing, right?
Exactly.
Italian and then ranch.
And then ranch.
Yeah.
So then afterwards, I was texting my sister-in-law And Robert was driving on these roads, hilly, curvy roads. And I said, I think I'm getting a little car sick. And she's texting back, no, I don't think that's it. Because I was like, oh, yeah, because she heard what I ate. But to preface this, years ago, when Robert and I, were just
2006.
We've known each other a couple of years, and he went to what music? It was Sturgis.
Yeah, I was playing music up at Sturgis, the bike rally.
And he saw things that he'd not seen before.
It was a cultural shock, never been there before. And we had 8 gigs in 6 days. So I was playing sometimes two gigs a day. And we'd hop over to, where was that? Rapid City, South Dakota. And this was a Tuesday. And pulled into the sign at the Bucking Gator was the place that we was playing at. Go inside, and they had tortilla chips and some looked like fried chicken strips and some salsa, and I was starving.
It's free food.
Free food. I'm a musician. I'm going to eat some.
Yeah.
But
and so
I took a bite of the chicken strips, and I said, this ain't right. This is not right. This is not chicken. Had a green lining around it.
But you ate it all.
I ate it all.
And you played your music.
Yeah, free food. Starving musician. Come back the next day, and Wednesday, and I seen the sign up there that said Testicle Tuesday. That's how I remember it was a Tuesday.
Okay. This is early in our relationship, and he calls me because I didn't go on this trip. I was at home working and stuff, and he calls me, and he was like, oh my gosh. And he tells me the story because it was Wednesday when he was telling me, and he was nauseous the next day. And I was laughing so hard, I was crying. And I said, but Robert, you said that you're a picky eater. You're going to eat that? You're not a picky eater.
It was free food.
So.
Yeah. Evidently, I'm not a picky eater.
We digress.
So you look back at it and you say, I should have known. Like, I took a bite and it didn't look right. And I said,
should have just stopped right there.
But you were hungry.
Going.
Musicians.
Yeah.
Well, so on that note, Brian, has there been any unusual food that you've tried or unknowingly tried?
No, I'm not.
pretty much know everything that you eat. Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
I'm not particularly adventurous when it comes to food, which is an interesting place to be in when you're the kind of fellow who says, I want to live on a sailboat and pull fish out of the water and eat them. I've never caught a fish in my life. I've never cleaned a fish.
Who knows what's in there?
Yeah, I've seen enough videos. I've seen it done in movies enough that I'm kind of like, no. But hey, if you want something bad enough, you want all the stuff that goes with it. I guess the most adventurous thing I think I've ever had food-wise, when I was younger, I was an Army brat, and we lived in Germany, and we did a weekend tour of Paris, France. And we took a bus from Heidelberg, Germany to Paris, France, and we went to a fancy French restaurant where I got to sample escargot and frog legs. And that would have probably been 1991-ish. And I have not had any inclination to try those things since.
Well, frog legs are in a lot of the small town grocery stores that we go through.
They're a delicacy with chicken livers and everything like that around here.
Our nephews will gig those frogs and have frog legs all the time.
And the legs still twitch after you cut them off, I found out. Until you fry them, then they jump in the pan.
Oh, right.
But deep fried squirrel is hard to beat.
I haven't had squirrel. I have not been to the deep south, so I'm not yet familiar with those particular delicacies that those of us who are not south, typically stereotypically associate with regions of the country.
Did you know that there is a little town in Florida that worship the possum? Because apparently, and they have a statue of the possum, and they love the possum because, I don't know, they had a hard year one year, and that's what got them through the year, was eating possum.
Mm.
Wow.
I don't know. That we found that in that book, Weird Florida. So when we lived in Florida, we had to just go. I mean,
Well,
you know,
Florida is still weird. I mean,
it
Yeah.
is.
Florida man is a meme these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with all of your gearhead stuff, I know that being married to Robert, and he's working on the vehicle and getting on the side of the road and doing side of the road repairs and stuff like that. I'm sure you've had experience in all of your life that you might have had some oh my gosh moments. Do you have any to share?
Oh, well, you just jogged my memory there. Let's offer you the choice. I've got behind door number 1, I have oh my gosh moments involving said 1998 Mitsubishi Montero and mechanical shenanigans. And behind door number 2, we have a husband and wife in the former East German Republic lost in a Volkswagen diesel.
Oh, I like door number 2. Pick door number 2.
Door number 2 it is. So in 2012, I guess I'll preface this real quick. In 2010, I took my wife, Vanessa, to Heidelberg, Germany, which is where I did some time in Army brat. I love it. I kind of consider it my second home. I've only been there. I lived there for 3 years, and I've only been back twice since. And we went back and we met up with a Mitsubishi car club in Baden-Württemberg. And we spent a day go-karting with them and went to a car meet and had dinner, and then literally the next morning caught a flight home from Frankfurt. 2 years later, we went back because they invited us to an event called Elbtreffen, which is basically the Elb meeting. It is the largest Mitsubishi car owner event in continental Europe. They probably get about 400 to 500 Mitsubishi show up at this Sportplatz, or this sports field in a little town called Pretsch, which is about 2 hours south of Berlin. To save some money, we flew into London. We spent the better part of a week in England with some other Mitsubishi friends. I toured an old rally art facility, met some friends that I knew from Twitter because I was on Twitter back in those days. Stayed in a 1,000-year-old abbey. It was great, had a great time. And then we drove this right-hand drive TDI Golf diesel with a 6-speed from London to basically Berlin. Took it on the ferry, drove through France, Belgium, Netherlands, all that stuff. It was a 2-day drive. Did great. I drove all the way from London to basically Berlin and back to London, at some points doing 115 miles an hour on the Autobahn on a single tank of diesel in that thing. Of course, it was Volkswagen. It was probably cheating like all get out. But this was 2012. I had a BlackBerry. I did not have Google Maps or all that fancy stuff. I think Yahoo Maps was still the thing, but I did not have data. I didn't have paper maps. I didn't even have cell service, even though it was with T-Mobile.
You were living on the edge.
We were. And so like we had Wi-Fi at the hotel, and I forget the name of the town we were, but like if you draw a straight line from, oh gosh, what's the name of the town where the ferry comes across the English Channel in France? If you draw a straight line from where the Channel comes out in France, the English Channel tunnel comes out in France, and you draw pretty much a straight line east towards Berlin, there's a larger town in Germany just across the border. And Vanessa was like 6-7 months pregnant at the time, I think. And so we had Wi-Fi at the hotel and kind of looked up our map and our route and everything on Yahoo Maps or whatever. And I wrote down instructions on paper, and we had like a map book or something that we were trying to use. And we're checking with emails to get to this little town. And we drove and we drove and we drove. And swear we follow these instructions that we were given, and I'm driving down a farm road. It's paved, but picture a farm road where there are no farmhouses. It's like Midwestern United States farm. Like, it is flat cropland to the right, flat cropland to the left, and a row of trees next to a road that doesn't even have a line down the middle of it because it's barely a lane and a half wide. And the sun's going down, and we had already used the phone in England to check some maps and stuff, and 5 minutes after you turn your data on, you get the email from the carrier like, you racked up $200 in international roaming charges. Are you sure you want to do that? We were scared to death to turn the data back on the phone, or to turn the radio on the phone. And literally the sun's starting to go down, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and we just come around a corner, and here's this little village, and on the side of the road they've got like the signboard that's like a sawhorse with a Mitsubishi symbol on it, and it said Willkommen Elbtreffen, and we knew we had made it. And it was terrifying. Like, not only are we lost in another country and have no frame of reference where we are, which direction, like barely knew which direction was west. My wife's pregnant. I'm dragging her across the European continent to go to a frigging car show. And it was great because we pull up at the gate, and, there's like 3 Mitsubishis in line in front of us. We pull up, and I'm sitting in I'm in a right-hand drive car, and guy comes up to the window, and I was like, hey, so we're here for Elbtreffen. And he goes, in a Volkswagen? I was like, well, we drove here from England, and we're from Phoenix, Arizona, and there was such a commotion, and there was buzzing and talking back and forth, and somebody else came over with a clipboard, and we gave them our entry fee, and they're like, well, you have officially won the trip. You've won the trophy for the longest trip to get to Elbtreffen, and there will be many people very upset about this. We were expecting you. Here's your little permit. So I drove in, and then everybody's looking at us. We had this black Volkswagen Golf. We're driving in, and all these Mitsubishi people are looking at us. Like, you could have heard a pin drop. People were looking at us with just disgust, like, what the hell is going on here? Because there's only so many parking spaces for this event based on their permit. And as we're stopped there, it's probably one of my favorite automotive moments. One of my buddies, his name is Enrico, but he went by Chippy on the forums over there. I've got the window down, and we stop, and I look over to my right, and there's some picnic tables behind some bushes, and there's a bunch of people having a beer and eating a wurst or sausage or something. And all of a sudden I see him go, oh, and he climbs over the picnic table where people are eating, jumps over, like hurdles over these bushes, and runs like 20 feet and dives through the window to give me a hug. And we parked that little Volkswagen in the middle of their club parking with all these other Mitsubishis. They had their tent up. They had a German flag on one side, an American flag on the other side. And we were kind of like guests of honor, and they just introduced us everywhere. It's the best. And I think for me, like, that's probably one of those things that kind of tie it back to overlanding. It's the people you meet on these trips that matters so much more than what you drive. Because if you can go out and you can, like, instead of like putting $3,000 into a rooftop tent that you're just gonna like get sunbaked on the roof because you only go camping a couple times a year, like, buy the family plane tickets, go to another country, meet other people that do what you like to do, and let them feel like VIPs. Let them feel like ambassadors for their country, for their club, for their community, and like, you feel like a celebrity because you, by investing that kind of money to go somewhere far away and see other people, you honor those people so much that they will treat you like royalty, like family. Like, I know I could get off a plane tomorrow in Tehran, and I could find Mitsubishi people that would take me over. We would have a barbecue, and we would watch old Top Gear episodes, and vice versa. I always like to suggest people invite people. If you can't afford to go overseas, we're all on the internet these days. Find people overseas and open your home to them. Have them come over, crash on your couch, take them to the local car show, take them to the campsite that you go to, because I think those experiences will change your world more than any fancy forged wheels or locking differential or skid plates or more than any amount of LEDs. If you put 500 LEDs on your vehicle, you might come close, but nothing is going to light up your life like having that experience, feeling like the world just got small because you have something in common with other human beings. And I'm off my soapbox.
Wow, that was a great one. I like door number 2.
I do
It was
too.
a good choice.
And was that a 6-speed, you say?
It was a 6-speed.
Right-hand drive.
Right-hand drive.
How did you like it?
He's in the market, so
I liked it a lot. So here's the thing, like when we were in England, I got hooked up with one of my connections, hooked me up with a press fleet. I had a right-hand drive Mitsubishi ASX turbo diesel, which was basically the Outlander. Well, like the Outlander these days, you might see like the Outlander, like the PHEV, not the little sport, but the PHEV style, a little bit boxier version from 2012. It was a 6-speed all-wheel drive turbo diesel that we had in London, or we had in England, but they wouldn't let us take the press car out of the country. And driving the right-hand drive car on the left-hand side of the road took a little bit of getting used to. And I can figure that if you could picture going around a roundabout clockwise, that's dividing by 0. That's the automotive equivalent of dividing by 0, because your brain just, it doesn't make sense. But driving a right-hand drive car on continental Europe, where they're on the right side of the road, it was great, because when everybody in front of you is kind of creeping over to the left to see around the truck to pass, you could just kind of creep over on the shoulder and see all the way down the road on the shoulder. And then you could just take that leap of faith and just grab 4th gear, punch it, and go around on the left. But on the little farm roads, the B roads out in the country where they were kind of narrow, there were a couple times that we just sat because I just didn't have the, well, let's just say it wasn't Testicle Tuesday. You know? But it was great. Yeah, it was great. I mean, like, literally, I drove from London to basically Berlin and back on a single tank of fuel. And in some of those spots on the Autobahn, we were doing 115. Maybe, I don't think we were doing 120. I think we were doing something like 110, 115 for a while. And it was great. Great little car.
Yeah, my cousin was just over in Germany doing some work over there, and he got to drive on the Autobahn. Said he felt safer driving there than he did in the U.S.
Because they all have to know how to drive.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's apparently, so they're not allowed, they have to pass the annual safety inspections for the vehicles. You have to spend something like $3,000 on professional driving instruction before you get your license. And then the tax on the vehicle is based on the displacement of the engine, and things like a turbocharger or a supercharger sort of increases that. So it's like if you have a 1.6 liter engine, that's one rate, but if you got a turbo, now it's basically like you got a 3-liter engine, so that bumps the taxes up. And then insurance is apparently ridiculously expensive. So
you can't have the high school basketball coach be your driver's ed teacher?
I don't know that much about it, but I do believe it has to be like formal instruction. So maybe the high school basketball coach is a professional driving instructor as a side hustle or outside.
I know mine wasn't.
Mine wasn't.
Yeah.
He read the newspaper a lot.
He did.
Hey, let's go here. You drive me there. 45 minutes later, turn around, swap drivers, and he'll read the other section of the sports page.
Exactly.
Small town drivers.
Except for that one time in Billings, Missouri, where Tom, we'll just call him Tom because that's his real name. He now lives in Michigan, ran the only stoplight in town, and he had to hit the chicken brake.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, it was not good. He got demoted into the back seat, and another driver took over and drove us back.
Oh, shame. Well, Brian, you have the Gearhead Project. People can find you on the gearheadproject.com. Is that the address?
That is it. Yeah, I'm at thegearheadproject.com.
And can you tell us a little bit more about that? You introduced it a little bit at the beginning, but tell us a little bit more about the Gearhead Project, your and how that's forming. It's evolving. You've got big plans for 2020.
I do. So this is another area where I need to be working on my elevator pitch, come full circle. So the Gearhead Project is, at its simplest level, it's a forum. It's a private, paid community for automotive enthusiasts who are looking for a place to go online where things make sense. Things are organized in a way that makes sense, where you can be exposed to and get to know people of all different automotive interests. So you could see a build thread where somebody's building an overlanding rig, and the next thread might be somebody building a drift car, and the next thread might be somebody restoring a motorcycle, and the next thread might be somebody starting a hot dog cart business. It's not so much about what's right, what's wrong with regards to, say, social media, which we're all getting kind of tired of these days. It's a place for people who are looking for something better. And I like to think of it as a Facebook lifeboat or a parachute for people who want to bail out. And beyond that, right now, it's mostly a blog. But down the road, it's going to be a blog that is based on the activities and the goings on in the community. And I guess I would say if you were looking for a place to go online that is dedicated to serving the people who show up to hang out there, not a place to collect data and sell it to advertisers who are then going to put you in a box and stalk you across the web to show you those socks you looked at or whatever. That's pretty much what it is. Does that make sense? I'm still working on it. I need to come up with a better pitch. I wish I was better prepared, but the more I talk about it, the better.
Well, I can see that, like, you and Robert, I know that I would be over Robert's shoulder looking at stuff because he'd show me things like he does in other forums. But when talking cars, I find it interesting. I watch. What was the show that you mentioned?
Top Gear.
Top Gear.
Oh yeah.
Top Gear.
Those guys are hilarious.
I love Top Gear.
But yeah, you have a place though on your website where we can sign up for more information, or just put our name in the hat, so to speak, so that when your forum is launched very soon, that we would get introduced to that. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Right now it's basically a blog, and you can go and you can sign up to get the emails, and we'll be mentioning that. You can get the daily email option where if I publish something or anybody on the team publishes something, you get it, or you can pick weekly where you just get one email on Friday morning that links you to everything that's gone on. There will be updates there. The forum is live now. It exists now. It's been up since August.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the core team of about 5 of us are laying the foundations, making sure things work the way we want to do, because let's be honest. I mean, I'm talking about starting a paid forum in 2020. Like, if we're going to ask people to pay for it, it's got to work, and it's got to work right, and it's got to feel well thought out. So we're in the process of refining our onboarding process so that everyone who signs up feels confident that they've made the right decision every step of the way. It doesn't work quite like the old forums used to do. There's a lot of automation in there where if you show up all the time and you participate and you're helpful and people like you, you just automatically get promoted up and get more features and more permissions like moderators do. And we're going to do lots of cool stuff for the community, but I think that's the big goal is, I should say, we're working on getting the foundations laid. Once we get the foundations laid, we're going to try to get our beta testers in. I think we've got a short list of about 50 or so people that we're going to be bringing in as beta testers. And the target is having this thing available and open to the public by the end of the year, maybe the first of the year. But by the time this thing goes live for anybody to just sign up, there'll be 3 or 4 months worth of content in it. Lots of people already comfortable using it, and it's going to be a good time. And there is a page. I'll get you the link. Because I don't have it. I just was sneaky and sprinkled it into one of my Mondays posts recently. But there is a link. I do have a page where if somebody is interested in being a beta tester in that kind of community, that you can give me your name and email, tell me a little bit about why, and we will add you to the list. I don't know how many beta testers we're going to open it up to, but it'd be cool to see that we have a whole bunch of people say they want to do it. And it's a place where the people who show up and participate are the voices that we listen to about what we do with it, how we do with it, and what everything looks like.
That
So,
is wonderful. That is exciting. I love it. Robert, what are you doing over there?
I'm just sitting here listening.
As long as he's not
Taking
shaving that glorious beard.
No. That'd be a mistake, and I don't make mistakes.
Where on the socials are you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I don't know what my URL is over there.
I'll find you because I like to put links in the show notes so anybody can hop over and click on those show notes and click right to you.
Okay. Yeah, you could probably find me on Facebook. I think if you do find me, the Facebook is going to show you that this is not the Brian Driggs you were looking for. I think that's the only thing it shows. But I'm the guy with the beard that's eating the taco.
Found you the other day.
I'm on LinkedIn, but pretty much I'm also on Instagram as b@tgp, but that's b.at. All right, let me spell that. b.at.tgp. I don't really post a whole lot there. When I do, it's generally kind of anti-gram, lame stuff like, hey, here I am stuck in traffic. Here's a broken elevator. Hooray. Just to remind folks that, hey, not everybody on Instagram is scuba diving in Tahiti or, going to space. Most of us are bored and just going through our regular daily lives, and not everything is an amazing Instagram influencer post. But yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but I'm trying to fade away from those because I think once the Gearhead Project community is up and running and there's 50, 60 people in there, I don't see why I'm going to have a whole lot of interest in going elsewhere other than to maybe drop a post to say, look how much fun we're having over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to draw people in. What are you doing over there at the Gearhead Project? I want to partake. I need to be a member.
Right?
So there's going to be some really cool things happening very soon. So any of our listeners need to sign up to on the gearheadproject.com website. Make sure to sign up for the weekly or daily posts.
Yeah, and we only post I think at most we might post 3 things in a week, and that's in a busy time. We're usually 1, maybe 2, so it's not that much.
And that is quite a bit, though. Oh, Brian, I think we could talk to you a heck of a long time. This is a wonderful connection. I'm glad that you wandered over after the food truck and at Overland and met Robert. It's just,
and honestly,
very nice.
I met my partner Todd Sharp with the Gearhead Project. I met him in person for the first time camping for Overland Expo West. And in saying that, that was probably the best thing about Overland Expo West for me, was finally getting to meet my business partner in person for the first time. But really, the most memorable experience I had in the actual event itself was that conversation with you, Robert, because everything else just felt like how many people do we need selling LEDs? How many rooftop tent manufacturers are there? How much of this stuff is all made in the same factory in China at this point? And you just so there's a lot of people who do really solid stuff, and it's craftsmanship, and I respect the hell out of that. But man, I think you guys explained it best. Overland Expo is the best place to be surrounded by 10,000 introverts that don't want to talk to each other,
That's true. It is true. Yeah, we didn't even go to this last one. We had so much stuff going on. with I had a couple of workshops up in Indiana, and she had one in St. Louis, and it just didn't time out right where we could make it out to Virginia. So I seen pictures though.
Yeah, it looks like good times.
Yeah. Well, it's the first one since the new company took over, so I don't know how it went.
Don't know.
Ain't no telling.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Been There Doing That podcast. It's been fun.
It has.
And where can people find us, Robert?
Oh, well, they can find us at that usual place on Facebook, Been There Doing That, or our website, Been There Doing That, Instagram, Been There Doing That. How about YouTube, Gayla? Where can they find us?
Been There Doing That.
That's pretty close.
Hey, do we have a email? What's the email address?
Oh, you're throwing me under the bus on that one. I don't know.
I think we have one that's called podcast.
That's what I was looking for.
I forwarded it to your personal one, but it's podcast at Been There Doing That.
I'll let you handle all the logistics.
And
it's using Been There Doing That at gmail.com. Did we do that?
No. We don't have a Gmail account.
No. It's
we were bona fide
Robert
back
had been
in
there doing that, and Gail had been there doing.
We were bona fide back in 2011.
Yeah.
When we got our website, I said, "Well, by golly, we're going to have emails for this website."
So that's been 8 years now.
I guess if you do the math, it is 8 years.
October 1st,
Right
2011.
Congrats, you guys.
Woo!
Another anniversary.
Oh, we're all the time celebrating anniversaries. Just anything for cake.
Got brownies.
Got brownies? Well, thanks, Brian. And till next time, we just have to have you back on the show.
I look forward to it. We can definitely connect again. I'll let you know when I've got some new developments. I'll keep tabs with you guys, keep track of you guys, and we'll just keep in touch.
Absolutely.